saving for our own pensions is, as individuals, really important to make sure we have a comfortable retirement. As a system, it's also really important to make sure that the state is sustainable.
Damo, what you got me up in Manchester for?
So we're here today. This is the Pensions UK conference. We're going to be doing two things. So we're talking to Torsten Bell.
Minister of Pensions.
Yeah, Pensions Minister. And I'm also giving like a talk panel thing.
And we brought the buzzer, don't worry. That's nice to say.
I hate the name Walkins, mate.
Yeah,
you look like there's a rod up your...
Yeah, no, I don't.
I can still hear it.
I work with swag, mate. Yeah.
We haven't got much time,
right.
So if we can crack on,
go.
That'd be great. We've still got the buzzer here.
What is the buzzer?
In case you say something that people don't understand, we'll hit that.
Oh, right.
Or if we want to clarify something for the audience.
Oh, right. What do I do if you say something they won't understand?
There you go. You got long legs.
None of us can reach the frigging buzzer. How long do you think our legs are?
I'm 6'3". I don't know what you're talking about.
You're 5'4", mate. Stop it.
Let's not start this. Right. We'll get a picture at the end. We'll see how tall you are.
See his legs are.
Okay, so
right, sorry, go.
I just want to ask first of all, what do you think is the scale of the issue that faces people when it comes to their pensions and retirement?
Well, I think there's two ways to think about that. There's how much does it matter, and there's how well's it going. On how much it matters, I think it's basically, although people don't love talking about pensions and thinking about it all the time, there's not many things more important. Because like the big picture is, for most of human history, we basically worked until we died. Right? And then for the last 100 years, something magic happened, which is this thing's called retirement got invented that existed for large amounts for the population, not just for a handful of the really richest people, right? And that is a really big deal. Like that was what democracy, social democracy, progress after the First and the Second World War was all about for lots of people, right? Home ownership and the existence of retirement, and making sure that is available for future generations of workers is really important. So it's a really big deal on that context. On, is it a big deal? How's it going? How much should we think about it right now? I think the answer is we should be celebrating some of the progress that's happened in the last 25 years. More people are saving something into a pension. And remember, if you went back to the early 2000s, people said, oh, workplace pensions, dead. It's gone, right? It doesn't feel like people don't talk about that now, but that's what everyone was saying then. So progress has been made. People are saving something, but we've got to finish the job, is basically my view.
Could you revive the Pensions Commission?
I have. Are you excited?
I am excited.
You look a bit excited.
I know. I love
better.
I love
That's more like you. You look more excited now.
I love pensions.
You
honestly.
love pensions.
I do. I bang on about them all the time.
And you're excited about the Pensions Commission,
Yeah,
aren't you?
I wish people love their pension like they love their houses, because they're
I
going
thought
to
you were going to say something different there.
I don't. I'm sad and alone, so I love my house and my pension.
Oh, that's dark.
I'm joking. I got a partner.
Oh, you have got a partner?
Yeah.
You had a partner until about 10 seconds ago. And now what you have is zero partner because you just told her you love your pension and your house better.
Well, I mean, okay.
Moving on. You better save him. What kind of friend are you? You didn't dig him out of that.
No, he didn't.
Right,
so
try again.
We're leaving all that in. So the previous Pensions Commission, why are you reviving a new one? What do you think's gone wrong since then? Because the last one brought auto-enrolment, got more people into schemes.
You're going to explain what auto-enrolment is, or we think everyone's there?
I think most people know.
That's good.
It's that nudge into saving.
Pretty hard nudge, yeah.
Yeah.
So unless you opt out, your employer will enrol you in savings. Yeah. I don't think we should think about it as the last pension commission got it wrong at all. I think we should think about it much more as, go back to the 2000s. Remember, the Pension Commission for people this is the mid-2000s. This is the middle of the last Labour government. Without going into all the weeds of it, what was going on then? Pensioner poverty was really high. Remember, there used to be about a third, 30% of pensioners in poverty in the 1990s. All right? And workplace pension saving was dying. Those are the two big. There's lots of other problems, but if you focus on the big thing, those were the two things going on. All the defined benefit schemes were closing to new members. Increasing numbers of people were saving nothing into a pension. And so that was the job facing the Pension Commission. And I think it did a good job. And it did kind of two big things, big changes to the state pension, right? New state pension introduced under the last Conservative government in 2014. Big improvements, particularly for women. Like big gaps between men and women in the state pension and the old state pension system. In the new state pension system, basically gone. more or less the same for men and women. It's a big change. Flat rate system, easier to understand. Everyone knows what they're going to get. And then the second big change, automatic enrolment, like you just mentioned, coming in around the same time, has transformed the number of people saving, more or less doubled the number of private sector employees who are eligible, who are saving. So that's the good news. Big progress. Celebrate it, but don't be complacent. And that's why we've revived the commission. Because what do I mean by don't be complacent? Well, when you come to pensions conferences, which is where some people like you are today, people will talk about one fact and they'll say 9 in 10 people who are eligible for automatic enrolment are saving, i.e. very few people are opting out of pension saving if they work for an employer and they're being offered that kind of product. I think that is really good news. The fact they don't talk enough about is that 45% of working age people are saving nothing. Right, because that's 9 in 10 of employees of a certain kind who are saving something, but there's loads of self-employed people. You self-employed? You count as self-employed?
Yeah.
Self-identifying.
I'm definitely self-employed.
Director. So
that sounds posh. You're a director.
If I say I'm self-employed, people are like, "You're not self-employed. You're a director of a limited company." So
right, okay, I'll leave you to defend your tax
I'm not a
choices.
sole trader. I'm a director.
Anyway, right, moving on. There's a lot more self-employed people. And self-employed people are way less likely to be saving for a pension than they were. Like way less. Like it used to be about half of the self-employed saved into a pension, and we're now down to 1 in 5. That's a big problem. There's more self-employed people and far fewer of them are saving anything. It's a big deal, particularly for younger self-employed people. So we've got to fix that. Auto-enrollment doesn't touch them at all. The lowest earners aren't saving anything. Some ethnic minorities are less likely to be saving into the system. So there's lots of issues we need to think about where people are saving nothing. And there's also question marks about how much we're saving them. So those questions about making sure that today's workers, who are tomorrow's pensioners, have that, what I started with at the beginning, security of knowing they can have a comfortable retirement. If they want to work till they drop, that's fine. But we want ordinary workers to have the option of leisure in later life, or a mixture if you're kind of, and I think that's really important, and that's what reviving the Pension Commission is about. So don't be rude about the last one, but don't be complacent about what's more to do, basically.
Well, let's talk about the complacency then, because I know the Turner Commission at the time said that 8% was a starting point. I know if we look at super in Australia, they're at 12%. Have we been complacent by not pushing up the contribution levels over the last 20 years?
No, I don't know. I think that again is a bit harsh on history. I mean, it's easy for us to be rude about the last government, but I think that's less to the. I think what history shows you around the world is you do want to phase in big changes like this. These are really big changes we're talking about. You shouldn't be flippant about large changes to people's workplaces, how they receive their pay, how they get paid, their pensions. So you should be phasing things in. I think that's a reasonable thing to be doing. That's what happened in Australia, actually. Everyone likes to talk about Australia, but they forget it's taken them a lot longer. They started earlier, but it's taken them longer actually to get to where we are today. So in lots of ways, we've been going a bit faster, but they started earlier. So no, I don't think you should think about it like that. I think actually, if I was being critical of the last 15 years, some of these issues, maybe we knew they were bubbling. So I'll give you an example of an issue that everyone should have known was coming, and we kind of knew we should kind of be getting on with, but we haven't dealt with it, right? Which is most pension schemes now that people are saving into don't offer them a route to use that savings pot into retirement as a way of drawing down an income as a pension, right? We basically said, right, let's get everyone saving, and that's a good thing. But we haven't yet fixed the bit of the system about how do you use a defined contribution, which is what most people are saving into now, pot, to provide your income in retirement. Yeah, there's ways to do it. Obviously, the larger pension schemes do provide routes to doing that, particularly if they're contract-based schemes run by big insurers, but lots don't. So that leaves individuals wrestling with the system, which is we basically said, we're not expecting you to engage in the pension savings bit. We're doing that automatically through automatic enrolment. But that suddenly, at the point of retirement, we expect you to become a completely hyper-engaged investor who's able to think about all the different fees, all the different range of products, somehow manage the risk about how long we all live. It's not nice to talk about, but why are pensions important? Partly because none of us can on our own manage the financial risk of whether we get lucky and live till we're 100 or die a lot younger. And in retirement, that's really important because you're not working, you need your pension to provide that. And what you see happening in countries that haven't thought that through is that some people will consume far too little. I see a bit of that in Australia. If you look at what's happening, bigger pension pots, but lots of them are not being used, right? Because they're not protecting people against that risk, that people hoard it or they want to pass it on, whatever. So people either consume too little, that's bad, We don't want pensioners having a bad time. We want them to enjoy life. Or they overconsume and spend loads of money in the first 5-10 years of retirement and then accidentally find they get to 100 and then they're really hard up. So that is what we need to make sure we're fixing. So a bit of complacency about thinking ahead. It's not that that was happening in the system. Most people who were retiring, weren't relying on their defined contribution pots in the last 10 years as their big main pension. Some were, but most weren't. But in 10 years, 15 years, they will be. And we need to have the system in place for that. So a bit of complacency around that. And yeah, I think the industry would say politicians haven't kind of got going on the debating what's the right level of saving for the long term. Obviously, the industry has an interest in high levels of saving and they'd like the sector to be as big as possible. Totally fair enough. On that, our job is obviously to think what's right for the individuals and what's right for businesses. And that's what the Commission is all about.
Last time we recorded, Tremaine, you were having some real dramas with your accountant. So how's that been going, mate?
They're sacked. So drama sorted. They're a big corporate firm. They didn't really reply to my emails very quickly, took a week or two at times. And they charged me way too much. I mean, I've got pretty simple taxes and they were charging me thousands. They saved me some money, but I had to move on.
Slow and expensive.
Pretty much, yeah.
This is one of the reasons that we're really happy to be partnering with TaxZap.
It's a tech platform that makes self-assessment simple. Whether you're self-employed like me, a freelancer, or a director like Damo, big dog.
Instead of sending endless emails, bills and spreadsheets to your accountant, you just connect your bank, answer a few questions that are only relevant to you, and your tax return can be ready in as little as 15 minutes.
TaxZap is really easy to use, and it's HMRC recognized software, so it's safe, secure, and legit.
The price is also decent. So if you're self-employed with one income stream, it's just £89 as a one-off fee. No big accountancy fees. And we also have a discount code, of course.
If you need to file a self-assessment this year, give TaxZap a try. We've left a link in the description and use the code MONEY10 for 10% off your first tax filing.
You said, I think this was your last, when it was the PLSA before Pensions UK, they've gone for a rebrand. In your last speech, you said, today's problem is how we deliver higher returns for savers. The Commission is a 5-year kind of out in the distance. I want to ask
No, it's not. What are you about? It's going to report in a year.
We're reporting in a year?
Yeah. No. Everyone says to me, people say, why isn't things moving quickly? I'm like, go and talk to the pension industry. There's a lot going on. We've delivered the pension investment review, bigger, better pension schemes, forcing the pace of mergers. We've delivered a pension schemes bill that's in Parliament. That's a long bill, I promise you. I bet you haven't read it all. Still time. Which is about driving up returns for pension savers. That's what I was talking about there. Are we doing absolutely everything that when we have asked you to save into a pension, that pension saving is growing as fast as it possibly can?
Get rid of relief at source.
Let's come on to that in a second. That's a big picture. But I was going to is it all going slowly? No. And then in July, we've launched the Pension Commission, which will report in a year. Remember, the last Labour government, it took them 4 or 5 years to launch their Pension Commission. We're a year in and we're going. Nobody thinks there aren't big changes coming to the pensions
industry. So you will deliver
industry.
it quicker than the last one, is what you're saying?
I always say to people, definitely that. I always say to people, the one danger for governments is the same as the danger for humans, which is they don't think about pensions until it's too late. Right? That's definitely a danger. We are not making that mistake. We know what we're about. We're getting on with making the progress. It's got to be thought through. It's got to be thought through in the round. And we want independent voices like the Pension Commission helping us do that. But I don't think anyone can accuse this government of going slow on pensions.
Will you be the person then that's acting on the findings of the Commission? Because you can see...
I hope so, but you need to ask Keir Starmer.
Well,
I mean, that's the plan, but
you can see why people
You're
look
a
at the last
risk-taking
one.
director, and I'm a risk-taking politician, and we'll find out what life's got to offer.
Yeah, you can see why people look at the last one, go 4 or 5 years and go, well, you might not be the guy...
Yeah, but one difference I would say on that is... If I'm honest, looking back at those in the 2000s, well, I was involved in kind of the Treasury and stuff from 2006. So the Commission was kind of basically done most of the hard work by then, right? But it was way more controversial. Because remember, it was about, should you have workplace pension saving at all, right? But we've won that argument. This is about fine-tuning the system, making sure it's the best version. So it's not the same controversy. And actually, it was not for me to badmouth the last Labour government, but there was a lot of internal within the government disagreement about what the right answer was between government departments, the Treasury, the Department for Work and Pensions, number 10. Well, I'm the minister in the Treasury and the Department for Work and Pensions, so we can't fall out with each other.
Is the cross-party support?
Yeah, I think so broadly. I mean, you can have a look at what the Tories said in the... when the pension schemes bill was coming through. Broadly, yes. I think broadly... who knows what reform think. There's what reform say and there's what reform actually think. If I'm honest, I don't think they really care about this at all.
But shouldn't this be something that all parties should care about? Because you mentioned self-employed people, and I feel like we're always forgotten, and it's just like, oh, everyone's got DC, DB pensions, but like, what about the people?
Are you feeling left out?
Yeah, definitely. And
I care about you, mate.
Thank you, appreciate you. Yeah, but I know a lot of my friends don't save to their pensions and all these things, and it's like it seems like it just gets kicked down the road, and no one really cares about self-employed people. I think
that is fair. I think people do talk about the self-employed a lot.
They talk about them, but they don't help us.
We'll come on to that. So some ways to do, some ways to that. On pensions, I think the fair critique is loads of people have written a lot of reports about the problem, which is not enough self-employed people are saving for a pension. A lot of people have written that report, and I keep saying to everyone, I won't say it today to them, but a pension conference, which I don't need to be told that anymore. Like, what people need to do is get on with the hard yards of like, what is the answer?
Yeah.
And it's not straightforward. Like, you don't have the same in the employment relationship. You have an easy way to automate the saving into a pension pot, right? For the self-employed, you don't have that same simplicity of system, and so you need an alternative, and that is what the Pension Commission is looking at. But we will have an answer to that problem because we can't carry on as I say.
In 12 months.
Well, it'll be in early 2027, but that's it's an independent commission. So for that, but yes, it's not.
We
this
can
is
sit
not
here and have
slow.
a chat about it then.
Well,
you'll still be in the job. I'll still be a director.
Well, you're going to have a word with Keir Starmer. I'll hopefully still be in the job. You'll be a director.
Maybe Keir won't be in the job. Do I have to?
None of that. You big cynic. You say you were doing so well. Now you're falling out with your partner, with the Prime Minister. You can have no mates left.
You can see why I'm alone, right?
You're all alone with your pension and your house.
I back you more than I back him to still be in the job.
Cat.
The cat's dead as well.
Have a cat.
You got a cat,
but it passed away.
The cat's dead. I told you, sad and alone.
I told you are alone. You should be hugging him more.
Off camera.
Okay, good. Right. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay, so we haven't got much time, so I want to get through a few points. I'd like to talk about mandation because you talk about delivering.
Just for people who don't know what mandation is, please could you give us a little explanation?
The industry,
he's the one that brought it up.
Yeah, the industry would say that you're forcing them to invest 5% of default funds into UK assets.
No, they don't say that.
They
don't say that.
What would they say then?
Well, they say that the industry has come together and decided that it's a bit odd that UK pension providers don't do what pension systems in every other part of the world do, which is invest in a wide range of assets, right? And instead they focus narrowly on global trackers, which is good and a good thing to do. You want that to be a large part of what you're doing, particularly for younger savers. But you want to diversify your risk. And what you see around the world, Australia, Canada, the rest, is investing in a wider range of assets, including infrastructure or private equity or venture capital. And our industry has not got on with that. And what a load of the biggest pension providers have done is come together themselves. I support it, but it's their agreement at Mansion House. You've probably heard some people talk about it and say, we think we should be investing around, at least around 10% each in this wider range of assets, private assets. 5% of those should be in the UK. That's totally on them. That's their number. I think that's a good idea because that's what's in savers' interests. And everything is in the end, like, what is the important thing about pensions? They're not just another savings pot, right? They're not just another financial product. They are really, they're important in of themselves as a separate thing. And what matters is what happens to the returns for members. That's what it's about, and the security of those returns, which is why the diversification is important. So they've come together and said we should do that. I'm supporting that. The row you're mentioning around mandation is that previous attempts to make progress on this, and by this I mean the thing everybody agrees is in the interest of savers, haven't got as far as they should. And the reason they haven't is because the industry in private says we've got a collective action problem, right? And by collective action problem, they mean we all know we need to do this. It would be in savers' interest. But if I start building the investment capacity to invest in this wider range of assets, then I'm at risk of being undercut by this other scheme, which will promise lower fees, but lower returns in the long run, because employers don't care about the returns to members. They care about just the low fees, right? And that is a collective action problem. And what the bill that you're referring to, which gives us the backup power of saying to them, you promised you were going to deliver 10 and 5 because you think that's in the interests, and you are going to do it. I don't think I'm going to need to use that power, but there's the potential backup power if the industry sees the collective action problem get in the way again. But I'm pretty confident we're not going to need that because I see the industry changing.
Those big international funds, the Canada and that, they buy internationally. I don't know if do they have like set requirements for investment within domestic markets?
None of this is about requirements. The 10% is global.
You've got that back door though. So that is kind of like if you don't do it, we can make you. So it is a bit.
No, it's not. It's us saying you all agree this is in the interests of your members. Let's do it. And let's do it together. And it's on the government as well, right? It's our job to make sure there are investment opportunities in the UK, right? What is the government's economic strategy?
Why are they not doing
Well,
it?
I'm coming on in a second. Well, for the reason I just explained, which is they haven't built the internal investment capacity because they're growing fast and they haven't got there. So I understand that. That's fair enough. They think they've got a collective action problem. It's a bit harder to do. So that's why it's there, because change has to happen, because better returns for members is what's most important.
How do you know that the purchase of UK assets will deliver better returns?
It's not about UK assets, it's about a different range of assets. It's about not just investing in like the tried and tested equities, but making sure you've got a broad diversification across a range of different assets.
The 5%
No,
is
I'll
about
come on to that. Yeah, but that's basically telling you what would happen anyway, because one of the differences you see around the world again is, I mean, remember in the UK, there's far less investment in the UK than we see from pension schemes elsewhere in terms of their home bias, right? UK pension schemes invest less in the UK than pension schemes elsewhere do in their home countries. One of the consequences of that over time is that it contributes to the lower investment levels in the UK. And if you want to know why, in the long run, we're at risk of not being as well off as we'd like to be, it's because we've become a country that lives off our past rather than investing in our future. And if we want to carry on with that, fine, but I'm not doing that.
The Man United model.
But, well, that's a harsh...
I'm a Man City
and bold
fan.
of you just to say where you're sitting now in the middle of Manchester. But
I'm
it's
a
your
Man
life.
City fan,
You've
so-
fallen out with the Prime Minister, your partner, and half of Manchester and all of Thailand. So you are in serious trouble. If you get through the week, you've done well.
Yeah. But I just, I don't know. I would say, shouldn't the UK focus on making the investment piece in the UK more attractive, so people are like, it's a no-brainer, I'm
That's what we're
investing
doing.
within the UK.
Yeah, but that's just naive, if I'm honest. That's an easy thing to say. Let me explain why.
Okay.
Let me explain why.
Yes.
Right? Because we're doing that. I totally agree. A completely fair thing to say to me is, what's the government doing to make sure there's loads of good stuff to invest in? Well, we're doing loads. Like loads of solar farms that were sitting on ministers' desks for donkey's years, 3-4 years, because the last lot didn't get on with just letting the planning consents happen. Done within weeks. Actually getting built. No reservoirs have been built in Britain, large reservoirs, since 1992, right? Because governments just gave up with doing their job of investing in the country's future. We are getting it on with building a load of new reservoirs, railways, roads, green energy projects, the national grid. Like this is a government that is getting things built. I was talking to the chief exec of LNG, right, one of our big providers the other day. He just had a 20,000 house development given the go-ahead because we've cleared out the problem of the small snails that were holding up in Horsham. We are getting stuff built. That is what means there's a pipeline of assets for schemes to invest in. That is what we're in the business of doing. But at the moment, I've got loads of Australian and Canadian pension funds coming into my office saying, like, want to open office in London, lots to invest in. And I've got people naively saying to me, oh, there's nothing to invest in. That's not true. There is. Other people are buying it. Who's investing in our venture capital industry? Americans.
Yeah. So,
but it's really important this because these like easy lines are being used as excuses for putting up with the status quo that is not good enough.
Okay,
we've got to raise the investment levels in this country, and if we don't, we will be poor.
Yeah, I understand. Here's another easy line then. You might be credible, well thought out, well researched, but do you worry that you're setting a precedent for people down the line who are not you to dip into the pot? That you've basically given this broad scope that
no, it can't be used for that.
The definition's pretty loose when you read it.
This power does not allow a government to say, I want this money to go into this pet project or this pet project, which I think the worry you're talking about. Absolutely not. And the power has a backstop to it so that it disappears, right?
It's qualifying assets is what it's defined as.
Yeah, private assets. Yeah, you can't be like, I want you to invest in this project. That's not what a government can do, and rightly so, because it's for trustees or for investment managers to focus on what the right investment projects are, and that's what it's going to be.
Are you confident then, say like 10 years out, another government that they won't be able to?
Wait. No, we're going to be in government. None of this nonsense, none of this defeatism on you. I'm in the business of not just sorting out the pension system, but winning elections.
Okay.
And I know it may not, sometimes things look a bit rough right now, but you don't start prejudging.
Yeah.
4 years till the election, we're going to be winning.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so 50 years out.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
The power's gone.
The power's gone.
There's a backstop to it. It disappears.
How long is the backstop?
Because it's the industry that has said we're going to deliver this change by 2030. Right, that's what they've said to get to the 10% or 5% you're talking about. Sounds good to me. Let's get on with it. And the power is just to say, has that happened? And then it disappears in the 2030s. If they've got there and we haven't had to use it, great, the power disappears. You can't just use it in 2040.
And if they haven't got there, it's still...
If they haven't got there, then we're going to have to do something, aren't we?
So
because like I said to you can't carry on with the status quo.
Okay, T, talk to me about your attitudes towards risk.
I mean, I like a bit of risk in my investments, but I definitely would say since the podcast, I've toned it down a little bit, not quite as gung-ho and like carefree as I was in risk. So yeah.
Yeah, shooting from the hip all the time, weren't you? Yeah. I think personally that you should take risks, but it should always be in areas where you have a unique skill set, an edge, expertise, like your job, things like this.
Definitely.
One area that I wouldn't take any risks is compliance.
Yeah, the risk changes as you grow in business, and you need to be on top of it, which is why we partner with Vanta.
Vanta automates a lot of risk processes and helps you see your risks in a centralized platform so you know what really needs your attention.
Besides risk, the main thing Vanta does is automate compliance with security protocols you need to scale, like GDPR, HIPAA, ISO 27001, and SOC 2.
The beauty of Vanta is they make it easy to prove you're compliant with these standards, saving you up to 90% of the time it takes. And on average, $500,000.
If you know what these acronyms like SOC 2 are, you probably need Vanta. You can book in a demo at vanta.com/making money. There's a link in the description.
I'd like to move on to state pension.
We do.
That was the first bit you got excited about. There was you and your cat, and then you got excited about the state pension.
Because we have our audience are mainly 25 to 45-year-olds, and anytime we talk about state pensions...
So I'm Justin.
I mean,
I'm going to Justin. Are we classifying that as a young audience still?
To be fair,
you're one of us.
I'm going to self-identify as young for the next 10 seconds.
You look better than me, so you're doing something right.
I definitely don't. Someone sent me a photo the other day from the 2010 election campaign. I look a lot worse than that. It's a very long time ago.
It ages you quickly, does it?
It ages you a lot. It's a dark thing. Right, go on anyway.
Right. So people in our comments, people our audience always ask, they say, when we talk about state pension, they say, I'm not going to get that, am I? Like, they don't think they're going to get a state pension.
Yeah, they are going to get it.
What age do you think
they are going to get it?
They're going to get that?
Well, if people are retiring right now, they get it at 66.
25 to 45.
Well, the current legislative timetable is it goes up to 67 between 2026 and 2028. So I'm afraid your 25-year-olds are not in that. I need to be a bit careful here because there's currently a legal requirement on us to conduct a review of the state pension age. For legal reasons, I can't prejudge that. That review needs to go through and be considered in the right way by the Secretary of State. But I can tell you what the current legal position is, which is the age then goes up to 68 in the early 2040s, right? So that's the age when it gets it, and then you get into like then we're all dead. But yeah, so if there are some rises penciled in, then the really fast rises, which is why this has been a big feature of politics in the recent years, were because when the coalition government came in, George Osborne, he accelerated quite a lot of the increases in the state pension age, particularly for women that were coming through in the last decade. He used to boast about it being like the biggest saving he ever made, and I was always like, okay, but this is a load of people's lives that you just changed at very short notice. So we're not doing that. We're taking sensible, longer-term decisions. You shouldn't be moving around state pension ages at short notice. Like young uns like you deserve to know where you're aiming for. And broadly, those are the numbers that are in the legislation. But as I say, we're legally required once every, I think it's 6 years or once a parliament to do a review of the state pension age. So that's happening right now. But that's not going to change anything that happens in the short term.
That review's come around quicker, hasn't it, this time?
No, we have to do it every 6 years. The last one was in 2023, so we have to publish the results by 2029. What we've done is ask for some of the independent input to be put in train. So you're like, that's what's going on at the moment. Independent people are going away and doing maths, basically, which I know will excite you. And they'll present their maths to the Secretary of State, who will have to then do the review.
I imagine the maths would say that the triple lock is potentially a problem. You called it a poor tool in the past. Do you still feel that's the case, or have you changed your mind?
I think the way we should think about this is there's differences of views on the exact mechanism of the triple lock, right? Exactly how it works. The more important thing is what do you think about what's most important for pensioners? And my view is, what are the two things this government is actually offering pensioners, today's pensioners? Everything we've talked about before is mainly about tomorrow's pensioners, today's workers, right? Which sounds like is your target audience. But there are people above the age of 45, and some of them are above the age of 66 and are receiving their state pension.
We've got them as well. It's just the bulk is 25 to 45.
Okay, good. You don't want to lose those.
No, I mean,
and there's more of those coming.
We cover everyone. We cover everyone. So there'll be people of all ages listening. It's not just so you're talking directly to them.
What's our priority for pensioners? There's basically two, to keep it simple. Raising the state pension relative to earnings. Now, the triple lock is the way we're doing that, but that's the policy. And then saving the NHS. Right, those are the two most important things we need to do for pensioners. If you look at what we're spending, those are the two priorities. Sometimes that means there's other stuff pensioners might like that we're not doing. I'm not taking all pensioners out of tax because the two priorities are making sure they actually have an NHS that's fit for purpose. Because the biggest single betrayal of older generations is the state of the NHS. We cannot have these huge waiting lists. We've got to get them down. I see it in Swansea every weekend. People have had a tough time waiting too long, and the waiting lists are now coming down in Wales and in England because we've put the investment in. So that's the first thing we're doing. And then we're raising the state pension, because remember, yes, there are lots of pensioners who do have better defined benefit schemes who are coming into retirement at the moment. That's a really good thing. There's a reason why pensioner poverty has halved from the levels I mentioned earlier in the 1990s. It used to be about 30%, halves over the course of the last Labour government. It's risen a bit under the Tories, but it's still a lot lower than it was in the 90s. So you've got this cohort coming through with these defined benefit schemes. That's a good thing. They're generally higher income. But remember, there's still over 1 million pensioners who are just living on the state pension. Those kind of people will also be particularly likely to be spending their money on essentials like food and energy bills. And so we're making sure that they are not. I want those people to enjoy a decent retirement, and that's what raising the state pension is about.
Yeah, but it guarantees that it will outstrip wage growth and inflation long term, and that is unsustainable. And do you think then that what we're doing, because the theme here is long-termism, and I do believe that you've got a long-term view, do you think that we're sacrificing the potential viability of state pension long-term to protect that triple lock in the short term?
No. That isn't what we need to do. We do need to think about the whole system in the long term. I think that's a really important thing to do, as well as the two short-term priorities I just gave to you. I think that is important. That is what the Pension Commission is doing, which is what the original Turner Commission did as well, which is look at the system in the round. Are we sure that people retiring in 2050 will have the same kind of comfortable retirements as people retiring today? And on current where we are today, I can't promise you that. Right, if you look at the projections, we're talking about private pension income for retirees in 2050 being about 8% lower than for retirees today, and that is not acceptable. Right, so that's what the Pension Commission's job is about getting right, making sure today's workers have that comfortable retirement, and that does mean looking at the public and private pension system in the round. That's what the Commission will do for the long term. But if you're asking me about like this year, next year, then we have decided that we do need to slightly increase the rate of the state pension. That's the triple lock is the mechanism we're using for doing that. That does not mean, I see lazy stuff saying that means is the whole system's going to blow up tomorrow. That isn't what the maths say. There is an issue, obviously, that we are an older country. Right, that is an issue that does put pressure on how do we make sure we're laying the ground for a sustainable system. But remember, these are not separate things. Don't think about the private pension system here and then the state pension here. If you do what we need to do to make sure we have a decent private pension system, so at some point you start saving, and all the other self-employed as well. No, but that is important because it's taking pressure off the state system. It means you have fewer people coming into pension credit, into the means-tested pension provision. So saving for our own pensions is, as individuals, really important to make sure we have a comfortable retirement. But as a system, it's also really important to make sure that the state is sustainable. Right? It's not just care about the state pension. That's what matters for fiscal sustainability. The state and the private system massively
But that triple lock that guarantees that the state pension grows up above wages puts more pressure on the working population, so they can save less into their private schemes because it's a pay-as-you-go system that supports an ageing population with a declining birth rate.
Yeah, if your point is, are there pressures that come from an older population over time, then I agree.
No, more that the pressure's been amplified through a system that you said was a poor tool, and it seems like everyone outside of government agrees that the triple lock probably needs to be looked at, and I'm just wondering why you guys won't.
Well, we've written a manifesto and it says we're going to be raising the state pension because that's the right thing to do for now, and we're going to do it.
Okay, thank you for that. In 5 years, you're going to still be in power. You're going to be the leader of the Labour Party.
I'm definitely not, mate.
Okay, yeah, mate, my age are a bit too much. I just want to say, what do you hope will have happened in that period for people and their pensions, their retirements, and the outlook?
I think that's a really good thing, and I always try to encourage the industry to focus on that, like where are we going to be in 5-10 years, because that's how countries actually get better, right? If everyone's just thinking what happens tomorrow, you do not get good policy making. You don't get good pension savings. You keep saving nothing, and everything's a mess. So that is the right question. I think if we do this right, in 5 years we'll have put in place the system that is fit for the 2050s. That means that tomorrow's pensioners, today's workers, can look forward to a secure retirement, aren't worried, like you say, that bits of the system are going to disappear. And that is what we're busy laying the groundwork for. That's what we're doing by making sure the people are getting the best possible returns on their pension savings, getting rid of the small pots problem, right? So people don't have to like go around dealing with all their little pension pots. We automatically sweep those all together to make sure they are delivering good value for money. Get rid of poorly performing pension schemes. That is what we are doing. Then look at the Pension Commission to say, right, having done that, made sure the system is delivering good now, what do we need to do to make sure we're going to be in the right place in 2050? We'll get their report in 2027, early 27, and we will get on with it.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Sounds
for your
great.
time.
Thank
Exactly.
you so much.
Lovely to meet you guys. Good luck with the partner, with your relationship with the Prime Minister, with getting out of Manchester alive. I'm confident you can do it.
Demo,
Yes,
Torsten
mate.
Bell, that was epic. Hard and fast.
Yeah.
Got through a lot. What do you think?
Yeah. Sorry, mate. I'm just going to put on my speaker lanyard.
Big in the game.
Just in case. Where's your press one?
Yeah, where's my press lanyard, guys? So that they know I'm big press backstage.
Yeah, I mean, smooth operator, clearly well media trained. We are not media trained. So I hope we did okay. He also turned up pretty late. So we had not much time.
Like half an hour.
So you're conscious of like trying to get through a lot of things. We had, roughly half an hour. I would have liked to have gone into more detail about certain areas.
Yeah, which, like, what did you miss out? Or what did you want to talk
so
about more in detail?
if we're looking at it now, I think, stuff that they could do today to improve the returns. I think there's lots of things that the industry do that I don't agree with that would be really easy to fix. When I mentioned relief at source, he was like, we'll come back to that. We're talking broad strokes. He knows that costs loads of people loads of money every year because they just simply don't know that they should be claiming the tax back. Yeah. It's quite convenient probably for the tax take that like $1 billion a year gets unclaimed, but that they could just end that and more money would be going into people's pensions instantly.
And we've made, like, so many of your followers have said, oh, thanks, I claim back some tax thanks to your video.
Yeah.
So like he just, I assume they don't want everyone claiming it back.
It's higher rate taxpayers, so it's a small group, but they typically are the people that are under saving anyway, because a lot of pensions apply to qualifying earnings, which is a band of about 6K to 50K. So if you earn above that, you might not be paying in as much as you think you are. And that as well as that, you might pay in, and let's face it, 90% of people are in default funds. They don't know what's going on. They probably assume that it's all getting taken care of. They don't realize they need to go away and claim that extra 20%. And I think that's a really simple move that they could make, so it's automated, that would just result in more money going into the pots. 20% of the contribution is a lot. So you're upping people's contributions by 20%, those higher rate taxpayers, right? So And I know he knows that. I know he knows there's probably some low-hanging fruit. But I also think I was surprised by him saying we're going to deliver the commission in a year. We'll hold them to that, and we'll see how that if that comes about. They should be better at communicating that, I would think.
I think something they should be better at communicating. All the investments that he says that they've put in to make England a more attractive investment area. Like I didn't know about all the investment in solar panels and all the reservoirs and things like that. So yeah, he did say that he seems very confident that
he's really strong on the mandation thing of like, it's not mandation, but the back door to say, oh, if you don't do it, we can force you. It does feel like a bit of a shakedown. But then, if he's saying behind closed doors, they're worried about doing it because they're worried that other pension companies will basically just go, oh, we're not going to do that, so we can be cheaper and then we'll win clients as a result. Okay. I still think that anything that tells people where their money should go is
a slippery slope.
It's anti-investor sentiment. You shouldn't tell people you have to put your money into this style of investment. And yeah.
But I did like that he said there's a limit to the time. So after 2030, that power goes away.
Yeah, but like, bloody hell, it's like a tax, isn't it? It's like they introduce it, they get the benefits of it, which might be further investment into the UK, which benefits them. And they go, oh, well, we'll reintroduce that because it worked. I would also like to have pushed back in the moment and said, Nest would probably challenge you on the basis that they're not doing domestic investments. When we sat down with the guy who was the head of investment, he was talking about wind farms in, remember, he was really proud about the fact that they built these offshore wind farms and stuff. So it feels to me that they do invest in these kinds of projects. And I think the categorization of them as just all in index funds probably doesn't stack up. If you look at the breakdown of one of the default funds, they're in all sorts of assets. So yeah, I think that he's well thought out, that argument, but I do think the mandation suits them in the sense of they want to jumpstart investment into the UK. I will say that 25% of the Australian super funds are in the Australian market. The lights just came on.
Did you not notice? Yeah, the whole room got illuminated.
The heating hasn't. No, it's bloody freezing in there. I'm like shaking.
Beat,
I'm shaking like a shitting dog, mate.
I've got cold sweats. That's how cold it is.
Honestly. Yeah. The mandation point. So yeah, we could have gone all day about. It's one of them where you just keep going round and round, and only time will tell. And if in 20 years, everyone's got great returns from it, and the UK has an upward trend with investment, you go, well, it worked. But I am just nervous about politicians saying to pension companies, you have to put money here, because that to me feels against the fiduciary duty of the pension companies to chase the best returns for their investors. And then I would have loved to have asked him. I hinted at it around the triple lock about, you said this in the past and now you're saying this. I would have loved to have gone into more about his book, where he was quite brave about bold reforms. And, you know, is it a damp squib? Is that the right saying?
Damp squib?
Is it a damp squib?
I have never heard that
Have you heard
before.
a damp squib? Yeah.
What's that
Stolly, mean? Of course you would.
Yeah,
posh boy.
Stolly's Lexus is crazy, man. He comes up with the most outrageous words.
What was the other one you were saying at dinner? Rouge bouge madouge or whatever. A hosh bosh magosh. Anyway, no. Yeah, a damp squib, I think, is something that's a bit of like a wet flannel. I'm probably getting it wrong, but Labour feel like they haven't been that bold, right? So it feels to me like I would have liked to have just asked more, why have you gone from being super bold, full of ideas, to now it feels like Labour are a bit rudderless, you know, in that sense. And let's talk about the things that are good. I think he is like, in terms of like politicians, I think, not many. He comes across well, right?
I'd like to go for a drink with him.
Yeah,
like, he's like a nice guy.
I think more of that, because sometimes politicians can feel like aliens.
Yeah, he's like more like human. Like he's got personality.
Yeah, and I think he was having a joke with us, which I think is nice, and I think he's a good communicator. I do think as well that he's thought for years about this problem before he got into the job he's in, and I think politics is full of people that they've only started thinking about the thing that they're in charge of
when they get the job.
And then they know that in 2 years, they're not going to have the job again. What you have there is someone that's through the Resolution Foundation, and you might not agree with their approach and their ideology, but he has thought about it for a decade. So I would rather people like that be in these problems than, you know, someone who's just like, oh, I got the job last week. What is a pension? You know, which is sometimes feels like that.
And it seems like I get the feeling he's looking a little bit more long term. Like he's got a long-term focus.
I think, yeah. I mean, we need long-term and we need short-term. And I do worry about if a long-term focus means we kick the can further down the road. And every year that we wait to sort this out, people fall through the cracks. There's self-employed people where that makes a big difference.
Needs to be done. Like something needs to be done. If you know what the problem is, something should be done sooner rather than later.
And they do know what the problem is. And like, you know, he was hinting at one point around, there's certain aspects of this we knew. There's loads of it. They knew there was going to be an aging population. They knew, I think if you look at the triple lock projections, you know that thing's going to run wild over time.
But like on other things they are doing, the whole making all your pension pots visible in one place. I think that's good. That's really good.
It's good.
Some simple changes like that, like they make a big difference.
What I'm going to say is that there's more change going on in the pension industry right now than any time that I've been alive. So you can't sit there and criticise him too directly and go, you're not doing enough, because he's doing more than anyone I've seen before.
Exactly.
So yeah, and hopefully the outcomes are good. I mean, there's a real buzz around this pension show. And, you know, from our perspective, it's hard for us because that was 30 minutes. We got to be quick. I hope we delivered in that front.
Yeah, I think he pinned him down pretty well.
Yeah, well,
it was.
We'll see. It's not always about just pinning down. I don't just want to give him a hard time for giving him a hard time's sake. But I do think the triple lock thing is like, come on, mate. You know, you literally wrote.
You were ready to die on that. You were ready to die on that hill.
Yeah. Right. Let's leave it there. I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, Damo's going on stage to talk on a panel.
Yeah, panel. Yeah.
What are you going to say?
Well, it's all about, so like in the last 12 months, how I've been trying to shift my focus a bit with how I kind of do what I do. So one element of what I do is talking to individuals, the public, if you call it that, and trying to help them understand their pensions and their investments so they can engage in their finances better and change their lives. But I think the other piece now, where I can have a big impact, is turning to the industry and saying, this is how you can communicate with the wider world in a better way, because they kind of look at what I do as if they're like, oh God, how do you do that? How do you speak to people? And it seems weird that the industry needs those conversations, but yeah, I mean,
I think a lot of industries need that though, like communicating what they do to the average person. When you're in the industry, you get so bogged down with the technical stuff and all the details that you can't actually explain it to a normal person on what's important. You just give them too much info. So,
we like it or not, we're going to need the finance industry to support people's personal finances, and there's a lot of organisations that do amazing research behind the scenes, and they are well intentioned. They just don't understand new media and social media and how to potentially communicate. So I think I can do some good there, that if I turn that way and try and help them, it just spreads the message in a better way, doesn't it? You know. Nice. So that is what I'm here to talk about.
And on the closing note, how dapper is Damo in his suit? This boy cleans up all right, doesn't he?
Yeah. I got my uncle shoes on though, because I packed the wrong shoes.
He's got his Nigerian uncle shoes.
Yeah, you were like, oh, I like them shoes. I was like, yeah, but they look like Nigerian uncle shoes, right? That's why. What are those? Yeah, I thought I bought my black Oxfords, but I was in a rush and I opened my bag this morning and I was like, oh no, pack my Nigerian uncle shoes.
I'll take those off you after the conference.
Yeah, they won't fit your feet, your tiny little feet, mate.
Yeah, you've got tiny feet.
No, I haven't, mate. 13, 14.
What?
You know
and you're
it's
only
the case.
5'8". That's crazy. That's wild.
In my pants.
It's a wrap. End on that note.